Welcome, traveler. You have found your way back out of the cold, out of the relentless rushing of the world, and into the quiet sanctuary of the Midnight Hearth. I am the sleepless historian, and I have been waiting for you. The fire is already lit. The heavy oak door is closed, sealing away the clamor, the deadlines, the bright screens, and the endless noise of your day. All of it is gone now. It cannot reach you here. Before we journey backward through the veil of centuries, I want you to simply rest. Sink down into the space where you are lying. Notice the weight of the blanket covering you, feeling it press down gently, evenly across your shoulders, your chest, your legs. Let it be a shield of comfort. Take a long, slow breath in, drawing the quiet air deep into your lungs, and release it slowly, steadily, letting the tension in your jaw soften. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands, wherever they rest, become heavy and completely still. You are safe here. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to do. Just listen to the rhythm of my voice and the slow, steady crackle of the embers in the hearth. Watch how the firelight dances, casting long, soft, golden shadows across the stone floor, moving with a hypnotic, drifting grace. As you watch those embers, notice how their warm amber glow begins to expand. The edges of your modern room begin to dissolve, melting away like morning mist over a quiet lake. The air around you changes, growing subtly warmer, carrying the faint, earthy scent of dry dust, baked terracotta, and the lingering sweetness of olive oil burning in a small clay lamp. We are drifting, weightless, back through the annals of time. The numbers of the years peel away, softening into the shadows, until we arrive in the heart of the ancient world. It is the year 52 AD. We are in Rome. But we are not in the roaring Colosseum, nor are we standing amidst the chaotic, shouting throngs of the Forum. We have stepped into the quiet hours. The great, blazing Mediterranean sun has just dipped below the horizon of the Seven Hills, leaving behind a sky stained in bruised purples, deep indigos, and the fading, dusty rose of twilight. The heat of the day is finally breaking. The city is taking a long, collective breath. We find ourselves standing in the inner courtyard of a Fullonica, a Roman laundry and cloth finishing workshop. At this hour, the laborers have gone home. The heavy wooden doors that open to the bustling street are barred shut, muffling the sounds of the outside world until they are nothing more than a distant, indistinct hum. Here in this enclosed space there is only stillness. The courtyard is paved with large, uneven stones of cool, gray basalt. Beneath your bare feet, the stones are still slightly warm, holding on to the lingering memory of the afternoon sun, releasing that warmth steadily, slowly, up into the cooling evening air. All around the perimeter of the courtyard are wide, shallow basins built of sturdy brick and lined with smooth, waterproof cement. These are the lakes, the great washing vats. Right now, the water within them is perfectly still, resting like flat, dark mirrors reflecting the first faint stars appearing in the deepening sky above. Beside the vats are smaller, deeper oval tubs, separated by low stone walls. If you look closely in the dimming light, you can see the smooth, worn grooves on the tops of these walls, polished to a soft gleam by the countless hands of the full ones, the fullers, who rest their weight there day after day. Breathe in the air of this place. It is a complex, earthy atmosphere. There is the damp, heavy scent of wet stone and standing water. There is the raw, natural aroma of unspun wool, a smell like distant pastures and sun-warmed sheep. There is the faint, dry acridity of sulfur, bundled and waiting in the corners, used for bleaching the great white togas of the senators. And beneath it all, there is a strange, sharp, almost medicinal tang, a scent that has softened now in the cool night air, but one that holds the secret to the blinding white garments of the Roman Empire. To understand the garments of Rome is to understand a world without the pristine, packaged soaps of your time. The Romans prized cleanliness, their white togas a symbol of purity, citizenship, and status. A senator's toga had to be blindingly, impossibly white, a color known as candidus. But how does one achieve such immaculate whiteness in a city of dust, mud, wood smoke, and sweat, using only the raw materials drawn from the earth and the body? The answer lies in a strange, elemental alchemy, a process that might seem jarring to the modern mind, but to the ancients, it was simply the rhythm of necessity. The secret, the great solvent of the ancient world, was ammonia. And the most abundant, free source of ammonia in the sprawling metropolis of Rome was human urine. Do not let the thought pull you from your rest. In the quiet of this courtyard, stripped of its harshness, it is simply a chemical truth, a part of the grand, pragmatic recycling of the ancient world, where nothing was wasted and everything had a purpose. Throughout the city, on street corners and outside taverns, large earthenware jars, called vasa, were placed specifically for the collection of this fluid. When the jars were full, the fullers would collect them, carrying them back to these quiet courtyards. Allowed to sit and age, the liquid transformed, developing high concentrations of ammonia, a powerful natural alkali capable of cutting through the heaviest grease, breaking down dirt, and stripping away the stubborn oils of human sweat. Imagine the rhythm of the work that took place here just hours ago. The process was not mechanical, it was deeply, intimately human. It was a dance of weight and water. The fuller would place the dirty tunics and heavy woolen togas into the small, deep tubs you see before you. They would pour in water, drawn from the great, echoing aqueducts that fed the city, and then they would add the aged, ammonia-rich liquid, along with a type of alkaline clay known as fuller's earth. Then the true work began. The fuller would step into the tub barefoot. Resting his arms on the smooth, low-side walls for balance, he would begin to tread. Step, step, step. Imagine the sound, a rhythmic, hypnotic splashing echoing off the brick walls of the courtyard. Step, step, step. It was a slow, deliberate march in place. The fuller would stomp and press and twist the fabric beneath his heels and toes, forcing the alkaline mixture deep into the woven fibers of the wool. The ammonia worked its invisible magic, separating the dirt from the cloth, breaking down the invisible barriers of grime. They called this treading the saltus Fullonicus, the fuller's dance. It went on for hours, a steady, unbroken rhythm, like the beating of a great, slow heart beneath the noise of the city. The water would turn dark, the clay would bind to the impurities, and the heavy wool would begin to soften, surrendering its stains to the strange, ancient chemistry of the tub. But now the dance is over for the day. The workers have washed themselves at the public baths. Their tired legs are resting. The courtyard belongs only to the shadows and the silence. Walk slowly past the resting tubs. In the center of the space, a large wooden frame stands tall, its timbers dark with age and constant moisture. Hanging from this frame is a massive, wet woolen toga, suspended like a great, sleeping ghost in the twilight. Reach out, in your mind, and touch the hem of the fabric. It is heavy with water, the wool thick and deeply textured beneath your fingertips. It has been washed, rinsed in fresh, cascading water from the aqueducts, and now it waits for the morning sun to dry it. Water drips from the bottom edge of the cloth. Drip. A small, perfect sphere of water gathers at the tip of the wool, catching a tiny glint of the rising moonlight. Drip. It falls, striking the damp basalt stones below with a soft, hollow sound. Drip. The sound is endlessly rhythmic. It is the sound of time passing, of the earth turning, of the ancient world moving steadily toward the deep, silent hours of midnight. You stand there listening to the water fall, feeling the cool, damp air brush against your skin. The strange alchemy of the day's labor has been washed away, leaving only the profound, lingering stillness of the night and the slow, heavy breathing of an empire at rest. The water settles in the great stone basins. The shadows stretch longer, wrapping the courtyard in a velvet hush. And as the moon climbs higher over the tiled roofs of Rome, the ancient city sleeps. And we too sink deeper into the water continues to fall from the heavy, hanging toga, a slow and rhythmic metronome marking the passage of the ancient night. Drip. A pause, long and suspended, filled with the quiet breathing of the sleeping city. Drip. You are entirely weightless here, drifting as an unseen observer in the moonlit courtyard of the Fullonica. The cool night air holds you gently, carrying with it that complex, earthy perfume of damp wool, wet terracotta, and the lingering, faded memory of the day's strange alchemy. Let your gaze wander slowly from the hanging cloth, following the path of the silver moonlight as it spills across the basalt paving stones. The light moves like water, pouring over the low walls of the washing tubs, smoothing the rough edges of the brickwork and casting long, deep indigo shadows that seem to stretch and breathe with the rhythm of the wind. Follow those shadows to a quiet corner of the courtyard, sheltered beneath a slanting wooden roof. Here, resting upon a heavy, scarred wooden workbench, are the tools of the fuller's trade, lying perfectly still in the quiet dark. Move closer. There is no rush. Time here moves as slowly as the shifting shadows. Reach out your hand and imagine the texture of the objects resting on the timber planks. There are brushes here, strange and elemental, born of the earth and the creatures that walk upon it. Some are fashioned from tight, stiff bundles of dried plant roots, bound together with leather cords that have darkened with age and the oils of human hands. Others are crafted from the dried, prickly skins of hedgehogs, stretched and cured to form a natural, resilient comb. Beside them lie bundles of dried thistles, the spina, their barbed heads brittle and sharp, holding the quiet, dusty scent of summer fields long after the harvest is done. These are not the refined, smooth instruments of your time. They are raw. They are ancient. And they are essential to the transformation of the heavy Roman wool. When the great togas and cloaks were lifted from the ammonia-rich waters of the treading tubs, heavy and sodden, they were rinsed over and over in pure, cascading water from the aqueducts until the harshness of the cleansing mixture was entirely washed away. But the cloth, though clean of dirt and the oils of the body, was left matted, the woven threads flattened and tightly bound by the wetness and the heavy stomping of the fuller's dance. It was then, while the cloth was still damp, that it was brought to this bench. Imagine the fuller, standing here in the pale light of morning. He takes the heavy, damp wool and stretches it taut over a curved wooden frame. He reaches for one of these tools, the thistle or the hedgehog skin. And then begins a new rhythm, entirely different from the heavy, splashing tread of the washing tubs. It is a brushing, a carding, a slow, deliberate sweeping motion. Imagine the sound of it, echoing softly in the memory of these stone walls. A dry, rhythmic whisper. Swish. The stiff bristles catch the surface of the damp wool. Swish. The fuller pulls the tool steadily down the length of the cloth. Swish. With every pass, the sharp little barbs of the thistle or the stiff animal hairs snag the tiny, microscopic fibers of the spun wool. They pull them upward, raising what is called the nap of the fabric. It is a slow, hypnotic labor requiring patience and an even hand. If the fuller presses too hard, the threads will tear, ruining a garment that costs more than a common laborer might earn in a season. If he presses too lightly, the wool remains flat and lifeless. He must find the perfect balance, a steady, measured pressure, drawing the brush down, lifting the fibers, softening the cloth, making it plush and thick and incredibly warm. Swish. Down the length of the fabric. Swish. The sound is like a soft wind rushing through tall, dry winter grass. It is a sound that lulls the mind, a repetition so constant, so unchanging, that it becomes a kind of meditation. The rough, matted wool slowly transforms beneath his hands, becoming velvety to the touch, the raised fibers creating a microscopic forest that will trap the air and keep the wearer insulated against the biting chill of a Roman winter. But raising the nap was only a preparation. The cloth was clean and it was soft, but for the senators, the magistrates, the priests of Jupiter, it was not yet bright enough. Wool in its natural state, even when scoured of all grease, holds a faint, creamy yellowness. To achieve the blinding, luminous white of the toga candida, the fabric required one final, startling trial. Shift your gaze from the wooden bench, letting your eyes drift across the courtyard to another silent, imposing shape resting in the shadows. It is a frame, tall and bell-shaped, woven entirely from thick, supple willow branches. They called it the Viminia cavia, the wicker cage. It stands like a hollow, skeletal ghost in the moonlight, its woven surface casting intricate, cross-hatched shadows onto the stone floor. Beneath this frame sits a small, shallow brazier made of fired terracotta. Right now it is empty, cold, and dark. But we can feel the lingering echo of its purpose. When the brushing was complete, the fuller would drape the damp, heavy toga over the outside of this wicker bell, spreading the fabric out so that it covered the frame completely, creating a hollow, enclosed tent of damp wool. Then, into the small terracotta brazier, he would place a handful of glowing red-hot charcoal embers, carried carefully on an iron shovel from the furnace. The embers would glow in the dim space beneath the cage, casting a warm, pulsating orange light that filtered faintly through the wet, woven threads of the toga. And upon those glowing embers, the fuller would sprinkle a handful of bright yellow powder. Sulfur. The reaction was immediate. As the sulfur met the heat, it would melt, bubbling and hissing softly, before releasing a thick, heavy, pale smoke. This was sulfur dioxide, a potent, invisible vapor. Because the wet toga was draped tightly over the wicker frame, the smoke could not easily escape. It was trapped within the bell, forced to rise and permeate the damp fibers of the wool. Breathe in softly. In your modern world, the scent of burning sulfur is sharp, jarring, associated with matches striking or deep, volcanic earth. But here, in the quiet safety of the midnight hearth, we experience it only as a shadow, a diluted memory caught in the ancient brickwork. It is a dry, earthy tang, warm and slightly metallic, a scent of profound purification. As the sulfur vapor seeped into the wet wool, a chemical reaction occurred, a quiet, invisible unbinding. The vapor acted as a powerful bleaching agent, stripping away the last stubborn remnants of natural pigment from the sheep's fleece. The fuller would leave the cloth draped over the smoking brazier, watching the faint wisps of white vapor escaping from the edges, waiting for the smoke to do its slow, steady work. Imagine standing before that wicker bell in the dim light of the workshop, watching the warm orange glow of the embers breathing beneath the heavy, damp white cloth. It looks almost like a living thing, a giant, slow-beating heart of heat and vapor, purifying the garments of the empire. When the smoke finally died down, and the embers cooled to a soft, gray ash, the cloth would be lifted away. And as it caught the sunlight, it would be blinding. A white so pure, so brilliant, it seemed to carry its own internal illumination. The candidus. The color of power, of ambition, of a clean slate before the gods. But the process left a heavy, unmistakable scent of sulfur clinging tightly to the threads. No Roman of status would walk into the forum smelling of the foolery. And so, the cloth had to be washed again, rinsed endlessly in the cold, clear, rushing waters of the aqueducts over and over, until the ghost of the sulfur was washed away, leaving nothing but the pure, scentless perfection of the bright white wool. Now the brazier is cold. The wicker cage stands empty. The great, heavy work of the day has receded into the past, swallowed by the profound, comforting stillness of the night. The moon has moved slightly higher in the sky, its silver light shifting a fraction of an inch across the basalt stones. The shadows lengthen. The air grows a little cooler, wrapping around you like a soft, invisible blanket. Listen again to the sound of the water dripping from the hanging cloth in the center of the courtyard. Drip. It falls into the shallow basin below. Drip. The ripples spread outward, perfectly smooth, perfectly even, carrying away the noise, the tension, the weight of the waking world. Drip. You are safe. You are drifting. You are deeply, peacefully entwined in the ancient quiet. The Fullonica sleeps around you, a monument to a forgotten rhythm, resting beneath the eternal watchful gaze of the Roman moon. Let the image of the silver light on the damp wool fill your mind, soft, blurring at the edges, slowly fading into the comforting dark as the night deepens, and the embers of our hearth glow. The moonlight has now claimed the entirety of the courtyard, turning the gray basalt floor into a sea of polished silver. The shadows of the washing tubs have become long, sharp-edged fingers reaching toward the center of the space. As you drift deeper into the stillness of the Fullonica, the heavy dampness of the air begins to settle, bringing with it a sense of profound weight, a comfortable, grounding pressure that pulls you further into the quiet of the night. We move our gaze away from the empty wicker cage and the cooling brazier, drifting toward the back of the workshop, where the air feels slightly drier, filled with the soft, chalky scent of minerals and earth. Here, stacked against the wall in neat earthen jars, are the finishing earths, the creta. In your modern world, the idea of cleaning with earth seems like a contradiction, but for the Roman fuller, the earth was a cleanser, a polisher, and a brightener. Reach out and imagine dipping your fingers into one of these jars. The powder inside is incredibly fine, feeling like silk or cool flour against your skin. This is the earth of Chios, or perhaps the Simolean earth, brought by merchant ships across the Mediterranean to the docks of the Tiber. If you rub it between your thumb and forefinger, it feels weightless, slipping through the ridges of your skin. This fine clay was the final secret to the luster of Roman wool. After the sulfur had done its work and the cloth had been rinsed and dried, it was laid out once more. The fuller would take handfuls of this pale, white earth and rub it into the fibers of the wool. Imagine the sound. A dry, rhythmic friction. It was a slow and steady polishing. The fine particles of the clay would coat the individual fibers of the wool, filling in the microscopic gaps, smoothing the surface so that it reflected the light more evenly. It was this final earthing that gave the toga its characteristic sheen, a soft, matte glow that spoke of immense labor and quiet perfection. But even with the nap raised and the fibers polished with earth, the garment was still loose, its shape lost to the rigors of the tubs. It needed to be set. It needed the discipline of pressure. Follow the silver light as it leads you to the most imposing structure in the workshop, the pressorium. It stands in the deepest shadows of the rear wall, a massive, towering frame made of dark, solid oak. Two vertical beams, thick as the trunks of ancient trees, disappear into the darkness of the ceiling. Between them are horizontal planks of heavy wood, polished to a mirror-like finish by years of use. At the top of the frame are two enormous wooden screws, their threads carved with painstaking precision into the hardwood. This is the screw press. It is a monument to Roman engineering, a silent giant resting in the moonlit dark. Imagine the work that happened here as the sun began to set. The finished togas, perfectly clean, brushed, bleached, and polished with fine earth, were carefully folded. This was an art in itself, the plicatura. The folds had to be exact, symmetrical, following the natural drape of the wool so that when the senator donned the garment the next morning, the heavy fabric would fall in those iconic rolling waves across his chest. The fuller would place the folded toga onto the bottom plank of the press. He would lay another smooth board over it, then another toga, then another board, creating a sandwich of wool and timber. Then he would grasp the heavy wooden levers of the screws. Imagine the sound as he began to turn them. A deep, resonant groan of wood against wood. URGHHH. The screw turns slowly, steadily. URGHHH. The heavy upper beam begins to descend, its weight pressing down on the stacked garments. As the pressure increases, the wood begins to sing, a low, straining melody of tension. The air is squeezed out from between the fibers of the wool. The folds are pressed into the fabric, becoming crisp and permanent. The fine clay particles are forced deeper into the nap, locking in the brightness. The fuller would turn the screws until they could turn no more, leaving the garments under immense pressure throughout the night. Crick. The sound echoes softly in the moonlit workshop now. A single, tiny movement of the wood as it settles under the strain. Crick. It is a slow, rhythmic pulse of tension, a reminder of the unseen forces at work while the city sleeps. The press is a symbol of order, of the way the Romans shaped the raw materials of the world into something structured, disciplined, and beautiful. Inside the press, the togas are becoming set. They are losing the chaos of the washing vat and gaining the dignity of the office. They are resting under the weight of the oak, held in a silent, powerful embrace that will last until the first light of dawn. Walk slowly around the press. Notice the faint, sweet smell of the oak wood, a scent of ancient forests and slow growth, mixing with the clean, dry smell of the polished wool. Everything here is in its place. The jars of earth are sealed. The brushes are resting on the bench. The press is locked in its nocturnal labor. The courtyard is now entirely still. The dripping of the water from the center frame has finally ceased, leaving the silence complete, save for the occasional distant sigh of the wind or the settling of the timbers. The moonlight has begun to retreat, the shadows growing even longer as the moon begins its descent toward the horizon. The air is at its coolest now, a crisp, refreshing chill that makes the warmth of our hearth feel even more precious, even more grounding. You are drifting now, the images of the basalt stones, the jars of white earth, and the towering wooden press beginning to blur at the edges. The weight of the Roman night is a comfort, a heavy velvet blanket that pulls you down into the deep, dark earth. The Fullonica is a world of slow rhythms and elemental truths. It is a place where dirt is transformed into purity through patience, pressure, and time. And as you linger in the shadow of the great press, you feel that same transformation happening within yourself, the noise of your life being squeezed away, leaving only the crisp, clean stillness of a rested mind. Listen to the silence. It is not empty, it is full of the echoes of the day's work and the promise of the morning's light. But for now there is only the night. There is only the weight. There is only the steady, rhythmic breathing of the ancient. The great wooden press continues its silent vigil, holding the empire's dignity in its heavy, oaken grasp. But as we move deeper into the recesses of the workshop, away from the immense pressure of the timber beams, the atmosphere shifts once more. The air here loses its damp, stony weight and becomes lighter, caught in a gentle nocturnal draft that carries the scent of a hidden garden. This is the drying loft, a space perched high above the courtyard, where the air circulates freely through open-latticed brickwork. Here, the silver moonlight does not fall in solid pools, but filters through the lattice in 1,000 tiny diamonds of light, casting a shimmering woven pattern across the floor. As you drift into this elevated sanctuary, notice the shift in the scent profile of the Fullonica. The sharp tang of ammonia and the dry bite of sulfur have finally vanished, replaced by something soft, floral, and profoundly nostalgic. Suspended from the ceiling beams are rows of woven reed baskets, the corbs. They sway almost imperceptibly in the night breeze, moving with a rhythmic, weightless grace. Inside these baskets and spread across clean linen mats on the floor are the finishing touches of the Roman laundry, the aromatics. Reach out your hand in the dim diamond-patterned light. Imagine the sensation of dry, brittle leaves and soft, withered petals slipping through your fingers. This is lavender brought from the sun-scorched hills of the provinces. Beside it lies dried rosemary, its needle-like leaves releasing a faint, piney freshness even in the cool of the night. There are rose petals, darkened to a deep burgundy, their scent now concentrated into a heavy, honeyed musk. The Romans knew that even the most pristine white toga, bleached by sulfur and polished by earth, required a soul, a scent that would linger in the air as a senator walked through the marble corridors of the Palatine. They used these dried botanicals to condition the air and the fabric. In some corners of the loft, small clay braziers are used to gently warm these herbs, not to burn them, but to coax their essential oils into the rising heat, allowing the fragrance to rise and permeate the garments hanging above. Imagine the scent of dried violets mixing with the clean, neutral smell of sun-dried wool. It is a fragrance of stillness, of a world that took the time to infuse even its labor with the beauty of the field. The rustle of the herbs is a soft, dry whisper, like the sound of the tide retreating over fine sand. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic sound that speaks of the slow passage of time. Each leaf, each petal, was harvested by hand, dried in the Mediterranean sun, and brought here to complete the cycle of cleanliness. In the center of the loft, there is a large, circular wicker frame, different from the bell-shaped cage used for sulfur. This one is flat and wide, suspended by 4 hempen ropes. Upon it lies a pile of clean, folded tunics. Beneath the frame, a small, unlit incense burner holds a few grains of frankincense and a sprig of dried thyme. The light breeze catches the frame, causing it to rotate slowly, steadily. Creak spin. Creak spin. The sound of the ropes twisting is a low, comforting melody. It is the sound of a cradle rocking, of a world at peace with its own pace. The tunics on the frame catch the diamond light, their white surfaces shimmering with the fine simoleon earth, absorbing the faint, lingering fragrance of the thyme and the roses. This was the final stage of the fuller's journey. The garment was no longer just a piece of clothing, it was a sensory experience. It was white to the eye, soft to the touch, and floral to the breath. Walk to the edge of the loft and look out through the lattice. Beyond the walls of the Fullonica, the rooftops of Rome stretch out in a silent, silver sea. The city is a labyrinth of shadows and moonlight. You can see the dark silhouette of a distant temple, its marble columns gleaming like bone against the indigo sky. The air out there is still, but in here, in the drying loft, the draft continues its slow, rhythmic work, carrying the scent of the herbs across the sleeping workshop. It is a fragrance that bridges the gap between the earth and the empire, between the rough work of the tubs and the refined air of the court. You feel a profound sense of completion here. The journey of the wool, from the sheep's back to the fuller's tub, through the thistle's brush and the sulphur's smoke, under the weight of the press and finally into the fragrance of the loft, is almost at its end. The weight of the night is now a gentle pressure pulling your eyelids down. The diamond light on the floor begins to blur, the patterns of the lattice melting into a soft, gray haze. The scent of lavender and rosemary grows thicker, wrapping around you like a warm, fragrant fog. The rustle of the dry leaves. The slow rotation of the wicker frame. Creak spin. These are the rhythms of a world that understood the value of the final touch, the importance of the lingering scent. As we linger in the loft, the midnight hearth fire downstairs sends a soft, glowing warmth upward, a reminder of the safety and the stillness of our own time. The ancient night and the modern night have become one, a single unbroken tapestry of shadow and scent. Let yourself drift now, following the fragrance as it dissipates into the dark. There is no more work to be done. The garments are ready. The city is silent. The empire is at rest. The fragrance of lavender and rosemary from the drying loft lingers in your senses, a soft and floral veil that slowly begins to thin as we descend back toward the main floor of the workshop. The diamond-patterned light of the loft fades, replaced once again by the solid, cool silver of the moon as it reaches its zenith. As we drift downward, we find ourselves in the long, covered portico that lines the eastern side of the courtyard. Here the air is perfectly still, protected from the midnight drafts. This is the area of the drying racks, the pergolae. Stretching out before you are row upon row of horizontal wooden poles, suspended by thick hempen ropes from the rafters. On these poles, the garments of Rome hang in their final, peaceful state of repose. In the moonlight, the long tunics and the massive curving togas look like a forest of white silk, though they are made of the finest, most laboriously processed wool. They hang perfectly straight, the weight of the dampness now gone, replaced by a light, airy volume. Move slowly between the rows. The fabric brushes against your shoulders with a sound like a soft, dry sigh. Hush hush. It is the sound of absolute cleanliness. Stop and look closely at one of the hanging tunics. It is a simple garment, yet in this light, it possesses a quiet, sculptural beauty. The fibers of the wool, raised by the thistle and polished by the earth, have created a surface that does not just reflect the moonlight, but seems to absorb it, glowing with a soft, internal luminescence. This is the result of the Fullonica's long rhythmic day. Every thread of this garment has been pressed by human feet, scrubbed by human hands, and purified by the ancient elements of earth, water, and air. Reach out and feel the texture of the hanging cloth. It is no longer the rough, oily fleece of the sheep. It is supple, almost velvety. The nap is so fine and even that your fingers glide over it without resistance. It feels weightless, yet you know the density of the weave, the strength of the Roman loom that birthed it. In the corner of this portico, leaning against a pillar, is a finished piece that tells a different story. It is not a white toga but a heavy traveling cloak, a paennula, dyed a deep, midnight blue with indigo from the east. Even in the dark, the color is profound, a blue so dark it feels like looking into a deep, still pool of water. The fullers had to be even more careful with dyed wool, for the ammonia and the sulfur that bleached the whites would destroy the precious colors of the dyed cloaks. For these, they used gentler earths and shorter washing cycles, preserving the richness of the pigment while still stripping away the grime of the road. As you stand among the drying racks, the silence of the Fullonica feels heavier, more resonant. The daytime noise of the splashing tubs and the rhythmic thudding of the feet is gone, but the air still vibrates with the memory of that motion. It is a productive silence, the silence of things becoming ready. Listen to the very faint rhythmic clicking of the wooden poles as they settle in their ropes. Click, click. It is a slow, steady sound like the ticking of a wooden clock. Click, click. The city beyond the walls has fallen into a deep, midwinter slumber. The taverns are dark. The fires in the insulae have burnt down to gray ash. Only the night watchmen, the vigiles, move through the streets with their lanterns, their footsteps a rhythmic echo on the distant basalt. But here, in the sanctuary of the laundry, the air feels warmer, protected by the thick brick walls and the memory of the charcoal braziers. Look up at the rafters. You can see the heavy hand-hewn beams of oak and pine, darkened by years of steam and smoke. They are the bones of this place, holding up the roof against the vastness of the Roman sky. Small clay charms, shaped like bells or tiny figures of the god Janus, hang from the beams to ward off ill fortune. They move almost imperceptibly, casting tiny, dancing shadows on the white fabric below. You are drifting now, the rows of white cloth becoming a soft, blurring fog of silver and gray. The scent of the herbs from the loft above drifts down in a final, faint wave, a whisper of lavender, a ghost of time. The weight of the ancient night is a gentle, steady pressure, pulling you further into the hearth's embrace. The full ones are dreaming now of the morning sun, when they will take these garments down, fold them with precision, and deliver them to the great houses of the city. But for you the morning is a long way off. There is only the stillness. There is only the rhythmic clicking of the wood. There is only the long, slow breath of the empire at rest. The silver light on the blue cloak. The soft sigh of the white wool. The distant, hollow echo of the city. Everything is steadily, slowly, drifting into the deep, dark sea of sleep. The midnight hearth glows with a soft, constant amber, a beacon of safety in the center of the shadow. The rows of hanging wool in the portico remain perfectly still, their silver luster deepening as the moon begins its slow descent. We drift away from the drying racks, moving toward the long, stone-topped sorting tables that line the inner wall of the workshop. The air here is noticeably cooler, the stone holding the midnight chill, but the scent of lavender and the earth of chaos remains, a lingering, weightless ghost in the shadows. In the center of the largest table, a single toga has been left out, prepared for the final morning folding. It lies flat, its massive semicircular shape stretching across the gray marble surface like a fallen cloud. Reach out your hand in the darkness. Feel the coolness of the marble beneath the wool. The table is smooth, its surface worn into gentle hollows by generations of garments being smoothed and pleated here. The wool is dry now, completely dry, and it possesses a light, springy resilience. When you press your hand into the fabric, it gives way softly, then slowly, steadily returns to its shape. This is the plicatura, the final architecture of the garment. To the Romans, the way a toga was folded was as important as the way it was washed. Each fold was a statement of order, a physical manifestation of gravitas. Imagine the master fuller standing here at dawn. His hands are calloused but precise. He does not simply fold, he sculpts. He takes the straight edge of the wool and brings it over, creating a deep, rhythmic pleat. The sound of wool sliding over wool is a soft, dry whisper. Then he uses a small, polished wooden mallet to gently tap the edge of the fold, setting the crease without damaging the fibers. Ta, ta, ta. The sound in your mind is rhythmic and hypnotic. A slow, steady percussion that echoes the beating heart of the city. Ta, ta, ta. It is a sound of permanence. These folds will hold their shape throughout the long hours of a Senate debate or a religious sacrifice. They are the rigid structures that contain the fluidity of the person. Move your fingers over the pleats that have already been started. They are crisp, like the ridges of a mountain range seen from a great height. Between the folds, the air is trapped, carrying that final faint hint of floral herbs and the clean, dry scent of the Simoleon earth. Beside the toga on the table lies a small iron smoothing tool, a precursor to the iron. It is cold now, resting on its ceramic tile. During the day, it would have been heated over a charcoal brazier. Its warm base used to glide over the stubborn seams, pressing out the last traces of the fuller's tubs. Look at the walls of the workshop surrounding the table. The bricks are thick, their surfaces plastered and painted in a deep, earthy red, now turned to a dark, velvety maroon in the moonlight. These walls have absorbed the steam of the day and the silence of the night for decades. They are the silent guardians of the process, holding the warmth of the sun and releasing it slowly, drifting into the cold of the midnight hours. High above, a small window, a simple slit in the masonry, allows a single beam of moonlight to strike the floor near your feet. Within that beam, tiny motes of dust and fine white clay dance in a slow, weightless ballet. They are the microscopic remnants of the earth of chaos, drifting in the still air, settled into the rhythmic pace of the night. The Fullonica is now a temple of finished labor. The tubs are drained. The sulfur has cleared. The press is locked. The folds are set. As we linger by the stone table, the silence of the Roman night feels profoundly ancient. It is a stillness that has existed for thousands of years, a lingering weight that settles over the soul. The city of Rome, with its millions of stories, its fires and its ambitions, has shrunk down to this one quiet room, this one piece of polished wool, this one rhythmic drip of water in the courtyard. Drip, drip. The sound marks the heartbeat of the sleeping empire. You are drifting now, the marble table and the white wool beginning to dissolve into the soft amber glow of our hearth. The heavy, cool air of the workshop wraps around you, a safe and steady embrace. The mallets echo. Tup, tup. The wolves whisper. The cooling stone. Everything is moving in slow, rhythmic waves, carrying you away from the 21st century and deeper into the timeless dark. You are weightless. You are still. You are drifting on the embers of the ancient. The stone table and the meticulously folded toga remain in their silent state of preparation, but the atmosphere of the Fullonica shifts as a new, flickering light enters the periphery of the moonlit courtyard. It is not the silver brilliance of the moon, but a warm, low orange pulse, the light of an oil lamp. A lone figure, the night custodian of the workshop, moves slowly through the portico. You do not see his face, only the soft, golden orb of his lantern as it glides through the darkness, casting long, dancing shadows that leap across the washing vats and climb the brick walls. The sound of his movement is a slow, rhythmic meditation. Shuff step. Shuff step. The worn leather of his sandals makes a dry, whispering sound against the basalt stones. It is the sound of a man who knows every inch of this space, every dip in the floor, every scent of the air. He is the guardian of the stillness, the one who ensures that the silence remains unbroken until the sun rises over the Esquiline hill. As he passes the rows of drying clothes, the light of his lamp catches the hanging wool, turning the silver fabric into a sudden brilliant amber. The garments seem to breathe as the light passes over them, their textures momentarily deepened, the fine nap of the wool casting microscopic shadows that make the fabric look as soft as a cloud. He stops at the far end of the courtyard, near a small recessed niche in the wall. This is the lararium, the household shrine. Even in a place of labor like the Fullery, the gods are present, their influence felt in the rhythm of the work and the safety of the night. Inside the niche stand small, bronze figures of the Laras, the guardian spirits of the workshop. Beside them is a representation of Minerva, the goddess of weaving and handicrafts, the patroness of all those who work with cloth. The custodian reaches into a small wooden box at his waist. With a slow, steady motion, he takes a pinch of dried frankincense and drops it onto the tiny, glowing charcoal within a miniature ceramic brazier at the foot of the shrine. The sound is sharp but tiny, a microscopic echo of the great sulfur fires of the day. A thin, elegant ribbon of blue smoke rises from the shrine, curling upward into the moonlit air. It carries a scent that is entirely different from the lavender of the loft or the ammonia of the tubs. It is a deep, resinous, and ancient fragrance, sweet, heavy, and profoundly sacred. Breathe it in slowly. The scent of the frankincense is a linguistic anchor to the divine, a smell that has drifted through the halls of history for millennia. It is the scent of a prayer offered in the deep of the night, a request for the protection of the garments, the prosperity of the shop, and the peaceful sleep of the city. The custodian stands perfectly still for a long moment, his head bowed. The only sound is the rhythmic, heavy breathing of a man at rest, and the faint, dry crackle of the tiny fire in the shrine. Then he moves on. Shuff step. Shuff step. The golden light of his lantern recedes, moving back toward the heavy wooden doors of the street entrance. The shadows settle back into their original places. The silver moonlight reclaims the basalt floor. But the thin blue ribbon of frankincense smoke remains, drifting weightlessly in the center of the courtyard, a lingering, fragrant ghost that marks the passage of the guardian. Follow that smoke as it rises toward the open sky. It moves steadily, slowly, twisting in the gentle midnight drafts. It passes the heavy oak beams of the roof, the hanging clay charms, and the resting baskets of herbs. As you watch the smoke dissolve into the indigo vastness above, you feel a deep sense of safety. The Fullonica is protected. The work is blessed. The night is a sanctuary where the physical and the spiritual move in a slow, rhythmic dance. The custodian's lantern is now just a distant, warm glow beneath the eaves. The city of Rome is a silent titan, dreaming of its own eternity. And you, traveler, are drifting deeper still, the scent of the sacred resin wrapping around you like a soft, protective veil. The flickering lamp. The ribbon of smoke. The guardian's slow, steady pace. Everything is melting into the soft, amber light of our own hearth. The ancient night holds you gently, its weight a comfort, its silence a song. You are weightless. You are still. You are drifting on the embers of a world that understood the sacredness of the quiet hours. The thin ribbon of frankincense from the custodian's shrine has vanished into the vast indigo sky, but its sweet, resinous ghost still clings to the cooling brickwork of the courtyard. We drift away from the shadows of the shrine, drawn by a sound so subtle it feels like a vibration in the marrow of the earth. It is the sound of water. Not the splashing, chaotic water of the daytime tubs, but the hidden rhythmic pulse of Rome's lifeblood. Move toward the back wall of the courtyard, where a small, arched fountainhead of carved marble, the face of an ancient river god, rests in the silver light. From his moss-softened mouth, a tiny, pencil-thin stream of water flows continuously. Glug glug. Glug glug. This water has traveled for miles, drifting steadily through the great arched aqueducts that span the Roman Campagna, moving by the simple ancient power of gravity. It is cold, clear, and carries the faint, mineral scent of the distant limestone mountains. Reach out your hand in the moonlit stillness. Feel the breath of the water before you even touch it, a localized pocket of cool, crisp air. Then let the stream fall against your palm. It is sharp and biting, a wake-up call to the senses that immediately settles into a numbing, weightless calm. The water flows over the edge of a small stone basin and disappears into a lead pipe, headed for the great washing vats we saw earlier. Even at night, the aqueducts never stop. They are the rhythmic, tireless lungs of the city, breathing water into every fountain, every bath, and every Fullonica. In the daytime, this water is a tool for scouring and rinsing. But at night, it is a musician. Plick, plick. A single drop falls from the river god's beard into the basin below. The sound is deep and resonant, echoing off the wet marble. Plick, The ripples spread out in perfect silver circles, hitting the edge of the stone and returning to the center in a hypnotic rhythmic dance. Listen to the stillness between the drops. It is a heavy, expectant silence. The marble of the fountain is slick and dark, polished by centuries of this constant flow. As the midnight air grows colder, the stone seems to shrink, releasing a faint, metallic scent, the smell of wet earth and ancient minerals. It is a grounding fragrance, a linguistic anchor to the very foundations of the city. Everything in Rome is built upon this movement of water. The cleanliness of the senator's toga, the softness of the wool, the health of the citizens, it all flows from these cold, mountain-born streams. As you stand by the fountain, let the sound of the glug-glug and the plink wash over you. It is a steady, unchanging rhythm, a sound that has remained the same since the days of the Republic. It is the sound of permanence in a world of shifting shadows. The moonlight catches the surface of the moving water, creating a shimmering liquid silver that dances on the brick walls behind the river god. It is a weightless, silent light, moving with the pulse of the stream. You feel yourself becoming part of this flow. Your thoughts are drifting, moving steadily and slowly like the water in the aqueduct, leaving behind the jagged edges of the waking world. You are becoming fluid. You are becoming still. The Fullonica is a sanctuary of water. Even in the dark, the moisture is there, a lingering, cool humidity that keeps the dust of the city at bay. It protects the wool, it cleanses the stone, and it lulls the soul. The river god's mossy beard. The pencil-thin stream. The rhythmic, silver ripples. The midnight hearth glows with a steady, amber warmth, a perfect contrast to the cold, mountain water of Rome. You are caught between the fire and the stream, safe, balanced, and profoundly at peace. The water continues its journey, drifting toward the sea, and you continue yours, drifting toward the deep, silent center of sleep. Leaving the cool, metallic breath of the fountain behind, we drift toward the furthest reaches of the Fullonica, where the washing vats give way to the storage rooms of the weavers. Here the air is bone-dry and filled with the scent of raw, unspun potential. Stretching from the floor to the high, dark rafters are massive, upright looms. They stand like skeletal sentinels in the midnight blue, their long warp threads hanging vertically, weighted at the bottom by smooth, teardrop-shaped terracotta stones. These weights, the pondus, sway almost imperceptibly in the silent drafts, occasionally brushing against one another with a soft, clay clink. Clink, clink. It is the sound of the loom at rest. In the daytime, this room is a hive of rhythmic tension. You can almost hear the ghost of the weaver's work, the steady thump of the wooden batten pushing the weft threads upward, the clack of the shed sticks shifting the warp. Thump clack. Thump clack. It is a heartbeat of industry, the process of turning a chaotic cloud of fleece into a structured, disciplined fabric. But now the looms are silent. The threads hang straight and true, bathed in the silver light that spills through the high, narrow vents. Move your hand through the hanging warp threads. They are coarse and strong, vibrating slightly beneath your touch like the strings of a great, silent harp. This is the foundation of every toga we saw in the press. Before the sulfur, before the ammonia, before the fuller's dance, there was only the slow, steady intersection of thread upon thread. The Romans viewed the loom as a metaphor for life itself, the warp being the destiny laid down by the fates, and the weft being the choices of the individual. In the stillness of this midnight hour, that philosophy feels tangible. The threads are a labyrinth of shadow and light, a complex weave of time that holds the history of the city within its fibers. On a low stool beside the largest loom, a basket of wool bowls sits waiting for the morning. Reach in and feel the wool in its rawest state. It is incredibly soft, springy, and still holds the faint oily warmth of the sheep. It is a cloud of pure potential, a weightless mass that will soon be spun and woven into the heavy garments of power. As you stand among the looms, the silence of the Fullonica feels deeper, more structural. The building itself is a kind of loom, weaving the elements of water, fire, and earth into the daily life of the empire. Listen to the soft, airy whistle of the wind as it passes through the terracotta pipes in the wall, a low, haunting note that stays on a single, steady frequency. It is the sound of the ancient world breathing through its architecture. The moon has now begun its long tilt toward the western horizon. The silver light on the loom threads shifts, the shadows of the weights lengthening across the dusty floor. The air is at its most still, a heavy velvet pressure that encourages the eyes to close and the mind to let go. You are drifting now, the vertical lines of the loom threads blurring into the horizontal glow of the midnight hearth. The raw wool, the woven cloth, the heavy timber, it is all part of one continuous rhythmic cycle. The clink of the clay weights, the ghost of the thump clack, the scent of raw fleece. Everything is steadily, slowly dissolving into the quiet dark. You are safe. You are held in the weave of the night. The loom is silent, the work is done, and the empire is dreaming. The silent looms of the weavers recede into the shadows, and we drift back toward the center of the Fullonica, where the moonlight strikes the largest of the bronze boiling cauldrons. This is the heart of the workshop's heat, the lebs, a massive vessel of hammered metal that rests upon a heavy tripod of wrought iron. In the heat of the day, this cauldron is a roiling, steaming sun, filled with boiling water and alkaline wood ash, used to scour the most stubborn oils from the raw wool. But now, the fire beneath it has been carefully banked with gray ash. The water inside has ceased its boiling, settling into a deep, dark stillness that holds the heat like a secret. Move your hand toward the side of the bronze vessel. You can feel the warmth radiating from the metal before you even touch it, a soft, pulsing heat that breathes into the cool midnight air. When you finally lay your palm against the hammered surface, the metal is smooth and firm, vibrating with a nearly imperceptible hum. It is the sound of the metal cooling, a rhythmic, low-frequency song that anchors the room. Beneath the cauldron, a few hidden embers still glow deep within the ash, like tiny red stars fallen into the earth. They pulse with a slow, steady light, breathing in the darkness. Occasionally, a single ember will shift, letting out a tiny, sharp crackle, a microscopic reminder of the furnace's power. Reach into the stillness of the air above the water. The steam has vanished, but the air is thick with the scent of wood ash, a clean, sharp, and primal smell that speaks of purification. It is the scent of the hearth expanded, the smell of trees transformed into the power to cleanse. A single bubble of air, trapped beneath the curve of the bronze, rises to the surface and breaks the dark mirror of the water. The sound is thick and heavy. The ripples move outward, striking the bronze walls with a faint, metallic ring before fading into the silence. The cauldron is a symbol of the Roman mastery of fire and water. To the ancients, this vessel was more than a tool. It was a ritual space where the rough fleece of the sheep was baptized in heat to become the refined cloth of the citizen. In the stillness of the night, the bronze vessel feels like a sleeping titan, resting its heavy limbs until the first light of the sun demands its return to work. Look at the surface of the water within the bronze. It is so still, so dark, that it reflects the silver moonlight filtering through the roof hole with perfect clarity. It is a portal into the deep history of the city, a quiet pool where the noise of the empire is swallowed by the silence of the elements. You are drifting now, the warmth of the bronze vessel flowing through your arm and into your chest, a steady and grounding heat that matches the glow of our own midnight hearth. Your eyelids are heavy, weighted by the scent of the wood ash and the low hum of the metal. The cauldron's pulse. Mm. The single heavy bubble. Woloop. The glowing embers beneath the ash. Everything is moving in slow, rhythmic cycles of cooling and rest. The metal is still. The water is still. The night is still. You are safe, held in the warm embrace of the cooling bronze, as the ancient world breathes its long, slow breath into the dark. The warmth of the bronze cauldron remains a lingering pulse in your palm as we drift away from the center of the courtyard, moving toward the small, shadowed office of the workshop's master. Here, amidst the wax tablets and the iron styluses, stands a sentinel of a different kind, not a sentinel of weight or fire, but of time itself. It is a clepsydra, a Roman water clock. In the silver-gray light of the office, it stands as a tall, slender vessel of polished terracotta. Move closer to the sound that defines this room. Tink, tink. It is a precise, unrelenting rhythm. From a tiny orifice in the upper jar, a single perfect drop of water falls into a lower container. Each drop is a heartbeat, a microscopic measurement of the Roman night. Tink, tink. In the daytime, this clock governs the pace of the Fullonica. It dictates when the treading must stop, when the sulfur must be replenished, and when the garments must be moved to the drying racks. But now, in the stillness of 52 AD, the clock is the only thing that moves. It measures the silence. It measures the rest of the empire. Reach out and touch the cool, damp clay of the clock's base. You can feel the vibration of each falling drop through the ceramic walls. The water is cool, drawn from the same mountain-fed aqueducts we visited before, but here it has been disciplined, forced to move with a steady, predictable gravity. The scent of the office is dry and intellectual. It smells of old beeswax from the tablets, the faint, metallic tang of ink, and the dusty scent of dried papyrus scrolls stored in cedarwood boxes. It is a quiet, orderly smell, a contrast to the visceral, earthy aromas of the washing vats outside. As you stand by the water clock, notice how the moonlight catches the surface of the rising water in the lower jar. It is a slow, invisible rising, a liquid mirror that reflects the passing stars. To the Romans, time was not a digital flash, but a fluid progression. It flowed. It had weight. It had a sound. Tink, tink. Listen to the spaces between the drops. Those spaces are filled with the profound peace of a city that has finally stopped its striving. The senators have set aside their togas. The soldiers have unbuckled their armor. The laborers have rested their tired limbs. All that remains is the steady rhythmic measure of the water. Beyond the office window, the silhouette of the Capitoline Hill rises against the indigo sky. The great temples are silent, their marble eaves catching the silver light. Somewhere in the distance, a temple bell rings out, a single, deep, resonant note that carries across the rooftops, marking the change of the night watch. The sound is so low and long that it seems to vibrate within the very stones of the Fullonica. You are drifting now, your breathing beginning to synchronize with the slow, steady rhythm of the clepsydra. Each breath is a drop. Each drop is a step deeper into the velvet dark. The water's rhythmic fall. Tink, tink. The scent of cedar and wax. The distant echoing bell. Everything is moving in a slow, inevitable flow toward the center of the night. You are weightless, suspended in the measured stillness of the ancient world. The midnight hearth fire glows with a steady amber light, protecting your rest as the water continues its tireless, silent count. The steady tink-tink of the water clock fades into the background, becoming a heartbeat of the building rather than a sound of the room. We drift from the master's office into the final chamber of the workshop sequence, the apotheca or the storage hall. This is where the garments, now perfected, await their return to the great houses of Rome. The air here is different. It is still, dry, and profoundly aromatic. Aligned against the walls are massive chests made of dark, reddish cedar and citrus wood. These are the Arsi, the guardians of the finished cloth. The silver moonlight, now beginning its slow tilt toward the horizon, streaks across the floor, illuminating the fine grain of the timber and the heavy bronze latches that secure the lids. Move toward the largest chest. Reach out and lay your hand on the wood. It is cool and incredibly smooth, polished by decades of linen cloths and oils. The cedar wood releases a scent that is both sharp and sweet, a woody, resinous fragrance that acts as a natural shield against the moths and the passage of time. Slowly in your mind lift the heavy lid. Creak. The sound of the hinges is slow and deep, a protest of heavy metal against the silence. As the lid opens, a pocket of trapped air escapes, carrying the final, concentrated essence of the Roman laundry. It is the scent of the earth of chaos, the lingering floral notes of the drying loft, and the deep, clean bass of the cedar itself. Inside the chest, the togas are stacked in perfect rhythmic layers. Each one is separated by a thin sheet of fine Egyptian linen to prevent the wool fibers from tangling. The whiteness of the wool in the dim light is startling. It seems to glow with a soft, internal fire, as if it has captured the sunlight of the previous day and held it fast within its weave. Reach in and touch the top layer. The wool is cool, dense, and feels surprisingly heavy. This is the weight of Roman citizenship. This is the garment that defines a man's place in the world. Beneath your fingers, the nap is so fine it feels like the skin of a peach, a testament to the thistles and the hedgehog skins we saw earlier. In this quiet hall, the garments are more than clothes. They are sleeping identities. Tomorrow, they will be draped with painstaking care over the shoulders of men who decide the fate of provinces. But tonight, they are just beautiful, silent things, resting in the protective scent of the cedar. Listen to the silence of the apotheca. It is a heavy velvet stillness. Beyond the thick walls, the city of Rome is at its deepest point of rest. The fires of the bakeries haven't yet been lit. The carts of the vegetable sellers haven't yet begun their clattering journey from the gates. The world is suspended in a brief, perfect moment of absolute zero. You are drifting now, sinking into the aromatic depths of the cedar chest. The scent of the wood is a grounding force, a linguistic anchor that pulls you away from the chaos of the future and into the stability of the past. Your breathing is slow, steady, and deep. The heavy thud of the lid. The sweet, sharp scent of cedar. The glowing, white weight of the wool. Everything is moving in slow, rhythmic waves of peace. The midnight hearth fire remains your constant companion, its warmth blending with the ancient scent of the wood. You are safe. You are still. You are drifting on the embers of an empire that has finished its work and closed its eyes. The scent of cedar and the weight of the folded wool fade as we drift out of the apotheca and back into the open courtyard of the Fullonica. But we do not stop here. Like the drifting mist of the Tiber, we pass through the heavy, iron-studded oak doors and emerge into the narrow streets of the Subura district. It is 3 a.m. The city of Rome is a silent, stone labyrinth under the silver-blue gaze of the moon. Look down at the street beneath you. The cobblestones, large, irregular polygons of basalt, gleam with a cold, damp luster. They are worn smooth by the passage of millions of feet, the grinding of iron-rimmed wheels, and the weight of history. Now they are empty, reflecting the stars in the thin film of moisture that settles during the deep night. The air here is different from the workshop. It is sharper, cooler, and carries the faint, lingering scent of extinguished cooking fires, damp earth, and the distant, dark water of the river. Listen to the silence of the street. It is not a void, but a deep, resonant hollow. Click. Step. Far down the alley, a member of the Vigiles, the night watch, moves with a slow rhythmic pace. The metal butt of his spear strikes the stone with a clear, lonely note that echoes off the high walls of the Insuli apartment blocks. Clink. Step. It is a heartbeat of security, a reminder that even in the depth of the night, the city is guarded. As you drift along the street, you pass the great earthenware jars, the vasa, placed on the corners for the fuller's collection. In the daylight, they are objects of utility, but in the moonlight, they cast long, curved shadows like ancient monuments. The city is a masterpiece of pragmatic recycling, a place where every element of life is gathered and repurposed. High above, the balconies of the apartment blocks hang over the street, nearly touching. The shadows there are absolute, a deep indigo velvet. You can feel the weight of thousands of sleeping souls above you, they're breathing a collective, invisible tide that rises and falls with the rhythm of the night. The street is a place of echoes. Every sound, a distant dog bark, the sigh of the wind through a terracotta gutter, is magnified by the stillness. A draft catches a hollow pipe in a nearby wall, creating a low flute-like note that hangs in the air for a long, steady moment before dissolving into the dark. You are weightless here, a drifting shadow moving through the arteries of the empire. The cold basalt stones, the high indigo walls, and the rhythmic clink of the watchman's spear are all part of a slow, hypnotic dream. Reach out and touch the stone wall of a building. It is rough, cold, and ancient, holding the stillness of the earth. The city is not just made of marble and glory, it is made of this silent, enduring stone, washed clean by the night air. The silver light on the basalt. The rhythmic clink of the spear. The scent of the cooling city. Everything is moving in slow, steady waves, pulling you further away from the noise of the day. The midnight hearth remains your anchor, its amber glow a distant sun that keeps you warm as you wander the moonlit streets of 52 AD. You are safe. You are still. You are drifting into the heart of the Roman night. We drift away from the narrow basalt-paved alleys of the Subura, drawn by the sound of a great rhythmic movement, the heavy liquid breathing of the Tiber River. As we approach the riverbank, the air changes. It becomes thick, heavy, and cool, carrying the scent of river mud, ancient silt, and the fresh, green smell of reeds bowing under the weight of the dew. A pale, white mist, the nebula, has begun to rise from the water's surface, creeping over the embankments like a slow-moving ghost. It wraps around the base of the massive stone bridges, softening the hard edges of the Roman engineering until the world feels as if it were made of charcoal and moonlight. Step onto the Pons Aemilius, the great stone bridge that spans the dark water. Beneath your feet, the massive travertine blocks are cold and damp, holding the moisture of the mist. Listen to the river below. Wah, wah. It is a deep, churning sound, the voice of the city's lifeblood flowing toward the sea. The water carries the stories of 1,000 miles, drifting steadily through the heart of the empire. In the center of the bridge, the mist is so thick it feels like a soft, wet blanket against your skin. The world of the Fullonica, the togas, and the streets has vanished, replaced by this weightless, gray void. Only the rhythm of the water remains, a constant, pulsing that mirrors the sound of the fuller's brush. Reach out and touch the stone balustrade. The travertine is textured and porous, feeling like the surface of a giant, ancient bone. It is solid. It is permanent. It has stood against the floods of centuries, just as the city stands against the floods of time. Looking toward the downstream, you can see the faint, dark silhouettes of the grain barges moored at the docks of the Emporium. They rise and fall with the river's breath, their wooden hulls groaning softly against the stone quays. The sound is a low, rhythmic sigh of timber and rope, a reminder of the vast networks of trade that feed the city while it sleeps. The scent of the river is grounding, a mixture of wet stone, cold water, and the faint, sweet decay of the marshlands beyond the walls. It is the scent of the earth in its most fluid form. As you stand in the mist, the silence of the night becomes absolute. The city sounds are swallowed by the fog. There is only the river, the stone, and the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. You are drifting now, the mist of the Tiber blending with the soft, amber smoke of our midnight hearth. The river is a conveyor of time, carrying you further and further away from the noise of the modern world, deeper into the silver-gray heart of the ancient night. The lap of the water. Lap, lap. The groaning of the wooden barges. The velvet touch of the mist. Everything is moving in a slow, inevitable current toward the sea of sleep. You are safe. You are weightless. You are drifting on the pulse of the eternal city. Leaving the heavy mist and the churning dark waters of the Tiber behind, we drift upward, away from the river's damp embrace. We ascend the slopes of the Palatine Hill, where the air grows lighter, crisper, and carries the fragrance of a world far removed from the grit of the Subura or the steam of the Fullonica. Here, the great villas of the elite stand in silent, marble splendor. We find ourselves in a private peristyle garden, an enclosed sanctuary of green and silver. The basalt cobblestones of the street are replaced by soft, manicured grass and paths of crushed white marble that crunch beneath an imaginary step with a soft, rhythmic criss-clack. The moonlight here is unobstructed, turning the dark leaves of the laurel and boxwood hedges into polished obsidian. The scent of the night is intoxicating. It is the perfume of night-blooming jasmine, a heavy, honeyed sweetness that only awakens when the sun has vanished. Breathe in deeply. The jasmine is layered with the sharp, clean scent of boxwood and the cool, earthy aroma of wet moss. It is the scent of luxury, the fragrance that the fuller's floral herbs were meant to mimic. In the center of the garden, a small fountain of translucent alabaster overflows. Unlike the river god's heavy stream, this water is a delicate, musical spill. Tinkle. Splash. It sounds like glass breaking in slow motion. Tinkle. Splash. It is a light, airy rhythm that clears the mind of any remaining weight. Move your hand through the branches of a lemon tree. The leaves are thick and waxy, releasing a faint, citrus oil that lingers on your skin. The fruit hangs like pale, frozen lanterns in the dark. Everything here is pruned, shaped, and perfect. If the Fullonica was the rhythm of labor, this garden is the rhythm of repose. The wind moves through the tall stone pines at the edge of the hill, a sound so steady and oceanic that it feels like the breathing of the earth itself. From this height, the city below is a sea of shadows, but up here, there is only the silver light and the fragrance of the blooms. You are standing in the quiet heart of power, yet there is no ambition here, only the profound stillness of the midnight hour. Listen to the silence between the splashes of the fountain. It is a soft, fragrant void. A single cricket, hidden deep within the ivy, lets out a rhythmic, pulsing chirp. Kree, kree. It is a small, lonely sound that emphasizes the vastness of the peace surrounding you. You are drifting now, the scent of the jasmine and the sound of the alabaster fountain pulling you into a state of weightless grace. Your thoughts are like the petals of the jasmine falling slowly, steadily into the dark grass. The tinkling of the water. Tinkle. Splash. The honeyed scent of the night. The oceanic sigh of the pines. Everything is moving in a slow, hypnotic dance of light and shadow. The midnight hearth fire glows with a protective amber warmth, a steady companion as you wander through the gardens of the ancient world. You are safe. You are still. You are drifting on the fragrant breath of the Roman night. Descending from the fragrant heights of the Palatine, we drift back toward the heart of the city, entering the Forum Romanum. Here, amidst the towering columns of marble and the vast, silent porticos, we find a small, circular temple that breathes with a light unlike any other in Rome. This is the Temple of Vesta. While the rest of the city has surrendered to the cool silver of the moon, this space is held in a warm, pulsing amber glow. Inside, the eternal fire, the heart of the Roman state, burns steadily, slowly, its light flickering against the polished stone walls in a hypnotic, rhythmic dance. Move closer to the threshold. The air here is noticeably warmer, carrying the scent of dried oak wood and the clean, sharp aroma of salt. This is a sacred heat, a communal hearth that has burned for centuries, never allowed to die. Listen to the sound of the flame. Whoosh, crackle. It is a steady, architectural sound, a pillar of heat that supports the spirit of the empire. Whoosh, crackle. It is the same sound as our own Midnight Hearth, a linguistic anchor that connects your world to 52 AD. Near the fire, a Vestal virgin moves with a ghost-like grace. Her white woolen garments, processed by the very fullers we visited earlier, catch the orange light, turning her into a pillar of living flame. She moves with a slow, deliberate rhythm, her leather-bound feet making no sound on the sacred floor. With a bronze ladle, she sprinkles a mixture of grain and salt, the mola salsa, onto the embers. The sound is a soft, rhythmic prayer. A small cloud of white smoke rises, twisting toward the circular opening in the roof, where it meets the blue-black of the night sky. The Temple of Vesta is the ultimate sanctuary. It represents the permanence of the home, the safety of the fire, and the rhythm of a tradition that transcends time. As you stand in the warmth of the threshold, you feel a profound sense of belonging. The fire is a protector. Its light is a shield against the vast, cold dark of the world outside. The flickering shadows on the marble. The steady, rhythmic whoosh of the flame. The scent of oak and salt. Everything here is ancient, yet perfectly present. You are drifting now, the warmth of the eternal fire flowing through you, loosening the last remnants of tension in your body. Your breathing has become as steady and deep as the flame itself. The midnight hearth glows in your room, its amber light a mirror to the fire of Vesta. You are safe. You are held in the warmth of the ages. You are drifting on the embers of an empire that never truly sleeps, but always finds its way back to the quiet of the hearth. Leaving the warmth of Vesta's eternal flame, we drift out into the center of the Forum Romanum. This, the heart of the world's power, is now a graveyard of silver light. The great temples of Saturn, Castor, and Pollux rise around us like bone-white titans, their massive columns casting shadows so long and deep they seem to carve the world into segments of light and dark. The air here is vast and exceptionally still. It has lost the earthy tang of the Fullonica and the sweet perfume of the Palatine gardens. It smells of cold marble, ancient dust, and the metallic scent of the bronze statues that stand on every pedestal. Step onto the rostra, the speaker's platform. Beneath your feet, the stones are perfectly flat, worn smooth by the sandals of 1,000 orators. In the daylight, this place is a storm of shouting, of ambition, of the clash of ideas. But at 4 a.m. the Forum is the quietest place on earth. Listen to the silence. Oh. A light wind moves through the porticos, a slow and rhythmic sigh that sounds like the city itself is dreaming. Oh. It carries no heat, only the crisp, clean emptiness of the high night. Look toward the Curia, the Senate House. The massive bronze doors are closed, their heavy surfaces reflecting the moon like dark water. Inside, the empty benches wait for the men who will wear the togas we saw under the press. In this hour, the laws and the wars are silent. The empire is not an act of will, but a state of being. Reach out and touch one of the great fluted columns of the Temple of Saturn. The marble is cold, so cold it feels like ice against your palm. You can feel the vibration of the city's deep foundation through the stone, a low-frequency thrum of the earth's own weight. Everything here is built for eternity. The scale is monumental, designed to make the individual feel small and the state feel infinite. But in the soft, blurring silver of the moonlight, the heavy marble seems to lose its density. The columns look like ghosts, the arches like portals into a different time. A single drop of dew, gathered on the gilded beak of a bronze eagle atop a victory column, finally grows too heavy. Blink. It strikes the marble floor of the Basilica Julia below. The sound is tiny, but in this hollow, silent space, it echoes upward, a rhythmic reminder of the slow, steady progression of the night. You are drifting now, the massive shapes of the temples beginning to soften at the edges. The silver light on the marble is a hypnotic veil, pulling you down into a state of profound, architectural rest. You are as still as the statues. You are as silent as the stone. The hollow echo of the wind. The cold, smooth touch of the marble. The vast indigo shadows. Everything is moving in slow, rhythmic waves of history. The midnight hearth fire in your room is the only warmth in this world of stone, a steady, glowing anchor as you drift through the monumental silence of the Roman Forum. You are safe. You are weightless. You are at peace in the heart of the ancient world. The monumental silence of the Forum begins to ripple as the deepest hour of the night prepares to surrender. We drift away from the cold marble columns and the sleeping Senate, moving toward the Aventine Hill. The air here feels thinner, colder, and charged with the electric stillness that precedes the first light of a Roman morning. Look toward the eastern horizon, over the dark silhouette of the Celian Hill. The indigo sky is no longer absolute. It has begun to soften into a bruised violet, a color like the deep-dyed wool we saw in the Fullonica. The stars are beginning to pale, retreating into the vastness of the heavens. As we ascend the Aventine, a new mist, thinner than the river's shroud, drifts through the groves of laurel and myrtle. It carries the scent of damp earth, wet stone, and the very first faint hint of wood smoke from the bakeries down in the valley. The city is beginning to stir, but it is a rhythmic, slow-motion awakening. Clock, clock, clock. From the direction of the Ostian Gate, the sound of a lone pack animal reaches us. It is a slow, steady rhythm, marking the arrival of the first goods of the day. It is a sound of necessity, a linguistic anchor to the tireless cycle of the city's life. Stop beside a low stone wall overlooking the Circus Maximus. Below, the great racing track is a long, dark oval of shadow. In the dim light, the sand of the arena looks like a gray sea. This is the place where the city's heart beats fastest, but now, it is a void of perfect peace. Reach out and touch the wall. The stones are covered in a fine, cold dew that feels like microscopic silk against your skin. The moisture is a blessing from the night, a final cleansing before the heat of the sun returns to claim the world. Listen to the silence of the trees. The wind is rising, a slow and rhythmic breath that moves the branches of the cypresses. They sway like dark, pointed fingers against the violet sky, nodding in time with the turning of the earth. The Fullonica we visited earlier is now just a dark shape in the distance, but you can imagine the garments within, the togas in the press, the tunics in the cedar chests, all waiting for the light. They have been purified by the night just as you have. The cycle of the laundry is the cycle of the city, a constant movement from the grime of the day to the stillness of the dark and back again. A single, distant bird lets out a quiet, questioning note. Tweet. It is a tiny sound, but it carries the weight of the coming day. It is the first thread of the morning's weft being woven into the night's warp. You are drifting now, the violet sky and the silver mist blending into the soft, flickering light of our midnight hearth. The transition from night to day is a slow, inevitable tide, and you are floating upon it, weightless and calm. The rhythmic clop of the hooves. Clop, clop. The scent of the rising mist. The bruised violet of the sky. Everything is moving in a slow, hypnotic progression. You are not yet ready for the day, you are lingering in the threshold, held in the protective warmth of the hearth. The ancient world is breathing its last nocturne, and you are safe within its song. The violet light over the Aventine deepens, but we do not stay to see the sun break over the horizon. Instead, we begin a slow, rhythmic retreat, drifting back through the layers of the night. We pass over the silent forum, through the narrow streets of the Subura, and back through the heavy oak doors of the Fullonica. The workshop is exactly as we left it. The great wooden press remains locked in its silent, oaken embrace. The water clock in the office continues its steady tink-tink. The cedar chests hold their aromatic treasures in the dark. But we continue past them, moving toward the very center of the courtyard, toward the source of the warmth that has guided us through the centuries. We return to the midnight hearth. The fire has burned down now. The great roaring flames of the earlier chapters have settled into a deep, pulsing bed of glowing coals. They are a rich, incandescent orange, the color of a Roman sunset trapped in wood. Sit down beside the hearth. Feel the heavy, radiated heat against your face. It is a solid, comforting weight that anchors you to the present moment. The scent of the fire is thick and nostalgic, burnt oak and the faint, sweet trace of the frankincense that drifted in from the shrine. Listen to the final rhythms of the night. Crackle. Pop. A single ember shifts, settling into the ash with a soft, metallic sigh. The wind outside the workshop makes one final pass over the roof tiles, a sound like the folding of a great silk toga. Reach out your hand toward the warmth. You are no longer a traveler in 52 AD, nor are you fully back in the modern world. You are in the space between, the timeless sanctuary of the hearth. The journey of the wool is complete. The city of Rome is at its deepest rest. And you have found the center of the silence. The weight of your body feels pleasant and heavy, sinking into the soft textures of your own bed, which now feels as supple and clean as the finest Simoleon wool. The rhythm of your breathing is slow, steady, and deep, a perfect mirror to the pulsing embers of the fire. The silver moonlight on the floor. The scent of cedar and ash. The slow, rhythmic pulse of the heat. Everything is fading now. The images of the Fullonica, the river, and the temples are dissolving into a soft, golden haze. The sounds are becoming a single, low-frequency hum of absolute safety. The fire is a low, constant glow. The night is an unbroken veil. The empire is a dream. You are drifting. Deeper. Into the warm, silent dark. You are home. You are still. You are asleep. A moment of stillness. I hope this journey through the rhythmic ancient night of the Fullonica has brought you to a place of profound rest. The Midnight Hearth series is designed to bridge the gap between history and tranquility. The embers of the Midnight Hearth have reached their most beautiful state, a deep, rhythmic throb of crimson and gold. We have traveled through the vats and the looms, across the bridges and into the gardens, and now we arrive at the threshold of total surrender. In this final space, there is no more history to observe, no more textures to feel. There is only the sensation of being completely held. Imagine the master fuller's final act of the night. He takes a single, pristine piece of linen and lays it over the finished work to protect it from the morning dust. The sound of the fabric settling is the sound of the world closing its eyes. It is a weightless, final seal on the labor of the day. As that linen settles, imagine it settling over your mind. Every thought, every image of the marble and the mist, is being tucked away into the cedar chests of memory. They're safe there. They are still. Listen to the heartbeat of the fire. Pulse. Pulse. It is the only clock that matters now. It doesn't measure minutes, it measures the depth of your peace. The scent of the workshop, the lavender, the cedar, the clean wood ash, has become a single indistinguishable fragrance of comfort. It is the scent of enough. The work is enough. The night is enough. You are enough. The silver moonlight that traced the floor of the Fullonica has pulled back, leaving the room in a warm, amber-tinted darkness. The shadows are no longer shapes. They are a soft, velvet embrace that cushions you on all sides. You are drifting further now beyond the reach of words. The rhythm of the ancient world has become the rhythm of your sleep, slow, steady, and infinite. The last ember glows. The last echo fades. The night is complete. Good night, traveler. Sleep in the peace of the eternal city. Reflection. This concludes our journey through the Roman Fullonica. You have traveled through the cleansing fires and the quiet stone of history to find your way back to rest. The journey has reached its true destination, the moment before the dream begins. We stand at the very lip of the morning, where the violet sky of Rome begins to turn a pale, pearlescent gray, but the light has not yet entered the room. It is the hour of the quiet bloom. In the Fullonica, the heavy wooden press remains still, its fibers having finished their long night of expansion. The cedar chests are cold to the touch, their aromatic treasures locked in a state of perfect, crystalline preservation. The master's water clock has reached the final mark of the night, its last drop hanging heavy in silver, before it joins the pool below. Drip. The sound marks the end of our vigil. As the first invisible ray of light touches the highest chimney of the workshop, a final rhythmic wave of warmth passes through the hearth. It is the fire's parting gift, a slow, sweeping radiation that eases the last bit of tension from your limbs. You feel as if you are being folded, just like the toga on the marble table, with precision, with care, and with a profound sense of purpose. Your breath is now a slow, oceanic movement. And out. And out. It is the same rhythm as the Tiber, the same rhythm as the swinging loom waits, the same rhythm as the turning stars. You are no longer watching the ancient world. You are part of its long, enduring rest. The images of the foolery are now just soft, blurring colors. The white of the wool. The blue of the indigo. The orange of the embers. They swirl together into a gentle, gray-gold mist that lulls the mind into a state of total weightlessness. The fire is now a bed of silver ash, yet the heat remains, a ghost of the flame that continues to guard you. You are sinking deeper into the pillows, which feel as soft as the fleece before the spindle, as clean as the fabric after the sulfur. The empire is at peace. The workshop is silent. The dream has begun. The hearth dimmed. The story of the Fullonica of 52 AD is now complete. The garments are ready for the morning, and the history has been woven into your rest. There is a final stage in the life of the Fullonica, one that occurs in the heartbeat between the last breath of the night and the first movement of the day. It is the moment of absolute stillness. In this moment, the Roman night and your own night are no longer two separate things. They have merged into a single, seamless tapestry. The distance between the year 52 and the present has collapsed into the warmth of your room. The heavy oak beams of the ceiling seem to stretch and settle one last time. Cricket. It is a sound of ancient bones finding their final position of rest. Imagine the scent of the workshop now as a fading echo. The lavender is a memory, The cedar is a ghost. The wood ash is a soft, gray shadow. Everything that was tangible, the stone, the metal, the water, has become weightless. You are floating in a sanctuary of pure, unadulterated quiet. The full ones, the workers who danced in the vats, are deep in their final hour of sleep. Their dreams are of white fields and cool streams. You join them in that collective dream. The loom is finished. The press is still. The toga is folded. Your mind is a clean, white cloth, spread out under the silver light of a moon that has finally set. There is nothing left to hear. There is nothing left to do. The rhythm of the night has carried you to the shore of a deep, dark, and beautiful sea. Softness, stillness, silence. As the final grain of sand falls through the hourglass of the night, we reach the state of the unbroken thread. In the ancient Fullonica, the work of the hands has ended, but the life of the objects continues in the dark. The wool fibers, touched by the earth and the sun, now hold the stillness of the room. They are no longer just fabric, they are a bridge. You are crossing that bridge now. The rhythmic clack of the loom, the tink of the water clock, the hush of the drying herbs, these sounds have slowed down, stretching out until the spaces between them are longer than the sounds themselves. In those spaces you find the deepest rest. Imagine the very last ember in the hearth. It is a tiny, glowing jewel of oak, pulsing with a light that seems to sync perfectly with your own heartbeat. Pulse. 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 The Roman Empire, with all its marble and its noise, has shrunk down to this one glowing point of warmth. It is the same warmth that has protected humanity since the first fire was struck. It is the warmth of safety, of home, and of the end of the journey. The air in your room is now indistinguishable from the air of the sanctuary. It is cool on your brow and warm in your lungs. The weight of your blankets is the weight of the finest, softest wool, prepared just for you by 1,000 years of tradition. There are no more chapters. There are no more steps. The thread has been woven. The cloth is complete. The light of the hearth dimming. The world becoming a soft, dark velvet. The final rhythmic sigh of the night. You are drifting. You are still. You are gone into the deep. I have guided you to the furthest edge of the Roman night. May your sleep be as enduring and peaceful as the stones of the eternal city. When you awaken, the hearth will be here, ready for whenever you wish to travel again. Sleep well.